Obviously, everybody in here knows who we are, but for the brand new folks, Paul Colón is a productivity agent who is basically one, maybe two deals out of graduating from productivity. Amazing! And Paul started not quite a year ago.
Mid-September.
Okay, so definitely not quite a year. And you don't mind if I brag on you a little bit, Paul is not originally from this area, so he doesn't have a huge sphere of influence. So, and when he started, we were still in the throes of COVID, and we really weren't doing open houses. Open houses really just got back into the mainstream of lead generation a couple months ago. And I love it, because honestly, that's how I grew my business. But Paul has picked up numerous leads and clients from open houses. So I asked him to take part in this so he can tell you what he does and how he does it. I've been doing this for 11 years, and as I mentioned, I started out doing a lot of open houses. That was my baby. And 75% of my business, my first couple of years, came from open houses. Excuse me. The remaining 25% came from networking, my sphere, and by the third year or so, some referral business from earlier clients. But open houses is really what I did. So I'm going to go through this. Everybody has a couple of handouts, and let's start with some basic do's and don'ts. And then every time I hand the sheet out, everybody says, well, this is all the do sheet. Where's the don't sheet? The don't sheet is what we're going to talk a little bit about. And luckily there aren't a lot of don'ts. But when you have an open house, you do want to engage your clients, or engage your visitors, I should say. Put your phone away. When I first started in this business, I would go on open houses just to see what the inventory was, and also to see how other agents handled the open. And I cannot tell you how many agents, different companies across the board, I'd walk in, they'd be sitting in a chair in the living room or on the sofa, on their iPad or on their phone, look up, hi, make yourself at home, if you have any questions, let me know, and they'd go back to their phone. Not exactly the best way to engage. So greet people. Now, the flip side of that is don't run to the door the second they come in. Hi, I'm Barb. Who are you? You know, don't be desperate, but be friendly. My personal MO was I would kind of peek out. I'd see somebody walking up the drive. I'd step back to like the middle of the living room because I didn't want to pounce on them like a car salesman. And when they would walk in, then I would have a few steps to make towards them, extend my hand, shake my hand. I don't know, we're shaking hands these days? I have no idea. Maybe fist, elbow bump, whatever you want to do. Hi, I'm Barb Newman. I always give my full name because there's a greater chance if I say, hi, I am Barb Newman, the response is going to be, hi, I'm Marcia McAllister. Where if I just say, hi, I'm Barb, you're only going to give me your first name, right? So there's a psychology there. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Right now we're in the middle of summer. It's hot as you know what. When I would do open houses, I didn't always have refreshments, except in the summer. Always have, whether it's the pony bottles of water, have some iced tea, have some lemonade. If you're doing a twilight open, you want to do wine and cheese, great. You could certainly have wine in the afternoon, but then you run into who wants to do day drinking versus not a judgment. Anybody who's at the tea meeting last week knows I don't handle day drinking very well. But definitely some cold water. And what's really nice, you can get labels. You buy the single-use bottles, and I know ecologically we shouldn't be using them, but if you get a bottle of water, you can get a label with your information on it. You can also get labels with the house information and your information. So do that one with your own listing, not with somebody else's. Know the market data before you host the open house. You want to know what's going on in the neighborhood. You want to know what the average price is. You want to know how long things are on the market. Study it. Preview houses in the neighborhood before you host that open, so you can speak intelligently about what's going on. Keep in mind, many people that come into the house are interviewing you without you even knowing it, and they want to know what you know. Okay, make sense? Build up the contacts. You can do this. Well, this is we have the little command handouts, but you can build your contacts without flyers and show sheets if you want. You can capture their information electronically. Tell them you will send them the MLS. Tell them you will send them information. If you do that and they're interested, chances are you'll get real contact information. Your choice. I'm old school because I'm old, so I tend to do pen paper, but a lot of people would prefer to do it electronically. Lastly on this is use your open house sign strategically. You want to make sure that anybody coming into that neighborhood will be able to find your house. If you have an open house open house sign on the front lawn and one directional at the corner, and that's it, you're not going to get the traffic you want. And if you are hosting a home or hosting an open in the middle of a community and you're surrounded by some larger intersections, that's gravy. That's wonderful because you can get the signs, on Route 1 and on Baltimore Pike, bringing it into the town where you are. I cannot tell you, even though everything's electronic and everybody already, they go on whether it's realtor.com or their agent sends them information about an open house. But if you have your signs placed strategically, you will be surprised the number of people that stop in. We were just driving by and saw your sign. I picked up 3 clients through the years simply because they were driving by. They had no idea that there was an open house happening on that particular street, but they drove by, they saw the sign. A couple other little things with the signs. Get the signs out really early. If you're hosting an open house that starts at 1 o'clock, don't put your sign out at noon. Get that sign out by 8 o'clock in the morning if you can. And if it is a township that allows you to put the sign out the night before, do so. Because if people are out running errands early on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning, or they're going to church, or they're going to take their kids to the softball game or the soccer game or whatever it is, they'll see that, 1 o'clock, there is an open house, I'll make sure I come back.
Make sure you have the writer on there.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure the rider is there with the time. Now, obviously, most people only have the one rider, so that's going to be right in front of the house. So, because you don't want them showing up at 11 o'clock when the sellers are still getting dressed and putting things away, right? Yeah. 2 other things I want to mention here that I'm going to let Paul talk for a little bit, and then we'll talk about a few other details. When you're hosting an open house that is not yours, make sure that at the end of the open house, you reach out to the listing agent and give them feedback. You don't have to give them the names of unrepresented buyers or sellers that come through, and that's your opportunity to cultivate a client. But if I have a listing and Paul sets an open house for me, I want to get an idea how many people came through, and he tells me 2. I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? He tells me 20, I'm like, that was great. And I may say, hey, how many were unrepresented? And for his sake, I hope he tells me 6 or 7 or 8. But if he tells me, 2, I'm like, did you get their information for yourself? I want him to be able to pick up a client. Now, this is a little bit on the side, because this is something that I personally do. And it's either, you don't have to do it, but I think it's very nice. If you're hosting an open house for me, and someone comes in and they are represented, but they end up buying that house, at settlement, I'm going to give you a gift. You know, because you took the time and you basically did sell the house, but you're not going to get a commission because they were already represented. Okay, so just keep that in mind, because when you are negotiating with other people, you can always ask. The last thing is respect the relationship that the seller has with their agent. In other words, when you are hosting someone else's listing, if you should see the seller, sometimes you will, sometimes you won't, and the seller starts asking, well, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? Do you think it's staged right? Do you think, what do you think we should do next time? It's really not your place to tell them. You're interfering in that relationship. Your best bet is to say, you know, that's a great question. Have you spoken with, you know, the listing agent about that? Or I think maybe you ought to talk to the listing agent about that. Don't get in the middle of anyone else's relationship. It can cause problems. Okay, does it make sense? Okay. I want to turn it over to Paul and let Paul share some things that he's done, and then we'll talk a little bit more about prepping for the open.
Hi. So like she said, I've been here since September of last year, and the bulk of my business has been open houses and converting buyers over to, you know, to their business. It's not always the particular house that I'm showing, but it is a client that's interested in looking for a home. I'll just go over the different things that I kind of work with when I set up for an open. From the beginning, we obviously have to do an open with somebody. I did that first, and the first open that I did was a very, very bad experience. I got maybe 2 people that were represented that went through, and it was very discouraging at first because I didn't understand, you know, that there was going to be. When I started, to be fair, opens weren't a big thing as well. You know, we were still in COVID times and everything like that. But I didn't really understand what was going wrong. Second open I did it for Brooke May Lynch. It was a townhome in Chatsford. Really nice area, really busy area. And first thing she told me was door knock. I prepared for that. I didn't really have, you know, flyers or anything like that. I literally printed out an MLS sheet, the client one. I printed out a bunch, stapled my card to it, and went door knocking. I did that for about an hour and a half, knocked on 50 doors, invited all the neighbors, let them know, hey, you know, your neighbor's selling. And I did this because a lot of the times the neighbors, they know somebody, they have family members, friends, something like that want to move into the area. Or they're just interested, you know, people are curious. They want to know what your place looks like, what your place is selling for, what they could get for their place. So they come by, and that day, most of the people that came in were neighbors, and like I had the house flooded with people. So it was a very different experience, and the door knocking helped a lot. That same house,
to combat that a little bit, how you do it, like when you walk around the neighborhood, do you invite the neighbors like the hour before it's open to the public to kind of cut down on that traffic?
That time I did. I believe that it was like September, end of September, October, so the weather was cool outside. Now I would probably do it differently. It's 90 degrees outside. I would go the day before in the evening. Hey, tomorrow we're having an open house. Your neighbor's selling their place. If you're curious to come by and check it out, if you know any friends or family that would like to come and see the home, please invite them. This is the information. My card's on there if you need anything, and we would love to see you.
Yeah, but like say the open house is scheduled for Monday through. Would you invite the neighbors to come at 12? Like if, of course, if it was okay with the sellers.
I mean,
like
from
12 to 1, we're inviting the neighbors to come through and see the house.
I mean, if you're willing to do an extra hour, yeah, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Can I just respond to that? Because I have done that. There are times it's 1 to 3, come on over. There have been quite a few listings quite a few opens where when I door knock, and I gave everybody a couple of samples of letters that I've handed out, I will specifically say, the open house is from 1 to 3, but I'm going to be there at noon, and I'd love for the neighbors to come between 12 and 1. So I have done that. I wasn't consistent with that. It really depended on the listing, the location. When I had a listing in my own neighborhood, I always did it because this is where I live. Hey, come on over. And a lot of times it would also just be in my gut. Do I think I'm going to get a lot of neighbors here or not? So.
I didn't know that. I didn't try that. I've never done that. So I mean, it's a great idea. But this, mind you, it was my second open.
Right.
I was winging it completely. I'm telling you, I had bright MLS client sheets with my card stapled to it, folded up,
Right, well,
and that's what I would hand to
I mean,
them.
I've only done 2 by myself.
Okay.
But I've noticed that it's a lot of the neighbors that come. So just, I'm thinking like try to weed that out so you can
It's-
separate the
So-
actual interested people versus the, I just want to peek in my neighbor's house type of thing.
But you never know how interested
Right.
the neighbors are, though.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I told you, the 2 letters, the samples back there, one of them, actually, I think I have, if you come by, you will be entered into a drawing. Do I have that one in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're doing a drawing, you could say for the neighbors, if you come between 12 and 1, you'll be entered into the drawing. And then obviously if you want to do the drawing from 1 to 3 for other people. So you can word it anyway. These letters are simply templates that you can modify. But I will say that every time I handed a letter out, and if I did use the one that offers a $25 gift card, because I don't do that every time, I always got at least 1 or 2 neighbors. And again, it also depends on the neighborhood. Some neighborhoods, everybody, like Paul said, you want a lot of neighbors are going to show up, and others, nobody shows.
Can I add 2 points about that? Just make sure if it's not your own listing that you're getting the listing agent's approval from the sellers, because if it's occupied, the sellers may be leaving just for that time, so just to make sure that
Yeah.
they're not there for that hour. But also with the neighbors, even if they're not interested, add them to your database, put them on a smart plan. You've already met them face to face, so you start building a relationship. It only helps the more people that come into your house, whether they're motivated or not.
They see what that home sells for, and a month down the line, they're probably like,
For
hey,
sure.
but if that home sold for that, maybe mine could go for more.
Exactly. And again,
Around that area.
when they come in, not only how much the home sold, but how are you handling yourself in the open house?
Mm-hmm.
As I said, many of them are silently interviewing you without you even knowing it. You know, you ask, are you thinking of moving? No, not for a while. Meanwhile, they know that in 6 months they're going to be putting the house on the market. They just don't want to tell you right away because they don't want you calling them every single week. But when they come to see the open, they see how you're engaging with people. And that, I picked up sellers that way. I had no idea that's what they were doing until after the fact, when they called me over for an interview at their house for a listing appointment. And they said, yeah, we've been going to open houses lately just to see how agents handle the people there. So obviously I did a good job. Sorry. I didn't mean it.
No, it's okay. Another thing is show up to the office. Agents in the office, most people that are looking to do opens, they're in productivity. Show up to the office. Let the the big agents that are constantly in the office know your face and know that you're here. Sit down and talk with them. Get ideas from them. They see your interest. They're gonna say, hey, maybe this person is interested in doing an open, and they'll start reaching out, or just let them know, hey, I'm available if you ever need. I started with acquainting myself with everyone, and just say, hey, if you ever need a showing done, let me know. And I would do showings for them and stuff like that, and they knew I was ready and available and willing, and next thing you know, people are asking me to do opens for them. Another thing, she touched on it a little bit, directionals. one would think directionals are, especially nowadays, with internet and everything like that, you would think that, people are just gonna find your open. And there's two things to the whole internet ordeal. If you're in productivity, most likely you're doing this open for somebody else. If it's for your listing, great. But if it's for somebody else's listing, and they offer to the open, make sure they put it up right away. If they're gonna do the open on Saturday and they're offering it to you on a Tuesday or Wednesday, tell them, hey, put it up right away. That way, it goes through Zillow. Because where you're gonna get your unrepresented is through Zillow, not through the MLS. Most people going through the MLS, they're represented buyers. So, I mean, it's great for them, but for yourself, trying to pick up unrepresented, that's always a good thing. Directionals, try to find main roads that lead to your house. Jim McGill told me, he was supposed to give this class today. He couldn't make it, but a while back, I remember he told me about directionals. He has over 30 directionals. He goes out the night before and he puts them all up. I don't know how he keeps track of them, but that's a lot of directionals. So he makes sure his directionals are up, and that you're gonna find his house. He just told me today that he bought a bunch of new ones with his name and his picture on there as well. Directionals work. And it's all percentages here, like on everything. Everything's gonna be hit miss, but if you have something there to hit, it's just more chance. Everything's chance. So it's like if somebody's just right into that neighborhood, if they're going for looking for garage sales, and they see your sign, and say, oh, we might as well go check it out. They go and just check out because it's an open house. It's anybody and everybody can come in. They might have a sister, they might have a friend that's looking in the area. They'll say, hey, this house is open house. They'll invite them.
One thing about directionals, and I saw Suzanne raised her hand, I think I know exactly what you're gonna say, because
Two things.
Okay, well, I'll say my thing, and see, I'm pretty sure your other thing is
I know
one of my
one.
things, is make sure that you know the township ordinances before you put your directionals out. I've lost a few signs through the years, and it was my fault, because I didn't check it out. For example, in Havertown, they cannot go in the median strip. They can only go on private property. In,
So you have to ask for permission.
you definitely have to ask permission, yeah, which, again, that's in the sample letter. What's the township? Off of Dilworth Town Road, I forget, the Birmingham Township, you have to pay $50, and that will allow you 10 days worth of signs. What was your other one? Those were two that I thought.
One that was, yes, you have to check. Alden, you're not allowed to have directionals. The only time you can have two for sale signs is if you're on a corner. But I'm on the planning committee now, so eventually I'm gonna get that changed.
Good, please.
That's on my list.
Not in Alden.
Not even the day of?
Nope. And you have to be careful, because I used to put them up anyway, because the guy who would take them away would not generally be out and about on a Sunday, and Brian would save them if I lost them. But I had one, and I didn't even think about it, but it was on the other side of the street, which was Collingdale. That's the one I lost.
Where would they go for this? I mean, I'm just.
They normally go to either a township building or the police station, and you either have to pay to get them back, or they just.
No, I mean, where do you go to get the information
Suburban
about
Bus.
signs?
Right on Tri-County, municipal,
I'm
yeah.
just asking, so they'll know.
Yeah, so if you go on the Tri-County website,
Yes.
and formerly Suburban,
I can't change
and there's a
that.
little drop down for municipal, and every township is there. And if there is a charge for signs, or if you can't have signs, or when they're allowed to be put out, some, like, I think Havertown also has, you can only put them out the morning of, and can't be before, I think, 10 o'clock or something ridiculous. Where Springfield, where I live, we can put them out Friday night if we wanted to. The other thing, while we're talking directionals, is the flip side of this. When your open house is over, please, 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 pull those signs and get them out of the yard, because it makes us look extremely unprofessional if you drive by somebody's house on a Monday
How
and a
about the
directional.
next one?
Yeah,
It could go on and.
that's a real pet peeve of
Yeah.
mine, especially when it's from our office, which I haven't seen for quite some time. But I would be driving through a neighborhood on a Monday or a Tuesday, and so had an open house on Sunday, and directional's still there. And I think to answer, I was either Amanda or Asher said, how do you keep track of, Jim's 30 signs? You know what I used to do, because it's funny, there's certain aspects of a job you like and others you don't like. I hate putting the signs out. I don't mind picking them up, but I hate putting them out. So my husband was my sign guy. I mean, he signed up for that. And I would literally print out a map of the neighborhood, and I would put little X's every corner where I wanted the sign. And then if he was picking the signs up, then he would take the map and say, oh yeah, I put one here, here, and here. So,
That's a smart idea.
Can't stress enough though that you need to knock on that person's door.
Yes.
Because they can
Yes.
get really
Yes.
irritated
Yes.
with Keller Williams.
Yep.
They'll call here Monday morning and start screaming at Betty Ann
so
that some rude agent put in a
Mhm.
directional sign up on their corner.
So that's why one of these letters, because again, I take my glasses off, will say, dear neighbor, I put a sign by your curb. I hope that's okay. If not, please let me know. Now, I knock on the door prior to that, unless it's an area where I'm putting the sign out at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not knocking on your door at 7 in the morning on a Sunday, because you're not going to like me no matter what. So in that case, I leave this sign or leave this note, and it'll say, if this is bothering you, please let me know. I'll get somebody to pick it up. I'll send my sign guy out. But if you either speak with them or leave a letter, a very nice letter, inviting them to the open, letting them know that you put a directional on their curb, hopefully out of the way, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be very gracious about it. If you don't, you're right, not only will they get annoyed, but that's when you go back at 3:30 to get your sign, you see it's lying on the grass or in the street.
Just one last thing about directionals. Twilights are coming into play too. At least just a specific one, Rose Street Media, they allow you your directionals outside from, I believe, Friday night until Sunday. But if you're doing a twilight and you put them out, you're probably going to get a call. So yeah, just let them know, hey, the open house is this night. We're getting them off. That happened to me once. Moving on, sign-in sheet. I use an iPad. If you don't have a means for an iPad, just set up any kind of, you can do a Google form or anything like that. Set up a sign-in sheet. You want the name, the last name. You want a phone number, a contact number. You want an email, and if you can get even a current address, that's a great question to have as well. These sign-in sheets is basically your leads. These are very important. A lot of people will try to skip through. I usually, if it's not a really, really busy open, I stand at the door, I open the door, invite them in. I present myself, I get their name, I say, if you could just please, sign in for me and enjoy the home. While they're signing in, it's always a good time. That's where I kick in my questions. My go-to is basically, how's your search going? With that question alone, I can get, where they're at, if they're working with somebody or not, like automatically. Because if they're not working with somebody, I'm not gonna go run into my sign-in sheet to, see and then go ask them the questions. I can just work it from right there. Oh, so you're just in the market, how's the agent you're working with? Oh, you're not working with an agent, okay, and then, go from there. Conversion's really important. I was speaking about it yesterday. You could talk to 1,000 people about real estate. If you don't ask the right questions, and she said something just earlier. It's all psychological. It's how you word things. If you don't ask the right questions the right way, you can turn somebody off. Donna Baldino, she gives a great class called DISC. If you haven't took that class, I don't know if
I
she's.
think it was recorded, I think.
It is recorded. She does do it often. Or does she do it again? Or
When I can grab her.
This,
So busy.
this is a great way to kind of put a quick read on people. It's kind of how to fill people out and which way they're going to go with certain things, how they retain information, how much information they want or don't want, how strong a personality that they have. With that class, you can easily know how to read your people as they walk into the door and asking them a couple of questions. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
So a couple of things, and again, we all know that if you ask 6 realtors the same question, you might get 6 different answers, and that's fine. As long as everybody's working via the code of ethics, working legally and ethically, we're fine. But we all do put our own little spin on it. So Paul greets folks at the door and has them sign in right at the beginning. I don't do that actually. I have them come in, I introduce myself, I ask their names. By the way, if they have kids with them, ask the names of the children. I try to find one thing that I can say to create some rapport. Oh my God, Ashley, I love that dress. Where did you get it? That's wonderful. I love that. Best prices. They come in with children. Oh, Anastasia, I love your hair. That's so pretty. I love your top. What's your dolly's name? What's your puppy's name? We want to create some sort of connection. I also welcome to this fantastic home. When you're touring, you must check out the fill in the blank. I want everybody to know there's at least one aspect of this house that I love. And sometimes when I have hosted open houses for other agents, I had to really look. Why did I say yes to this? But there's always something. So they can tour that, they can view that. And if they have kids, by the way, when they go through the house, I'll always ask the kids, did you check out your bedroom? Did you your bedroom? And the mom or dad will usually say, yeah, they want the big one, they want the main suite. But I also, when let's say a family comes in, and I get everybody's name, because I can't always remember everything, as soon as they leave that room, I'm turning my sign-in sheet over. Okay, Timmy, 6 years old, Sally, 4, loves giraffes, whatever it is. Because when I write my thank you note that night, or no later than the next morning, I'm going to reference something. By the way, Ash, I'm headed to Walmart later today to check that dress because I love it, whatever it is. Also, about psychological. I mentioned I introduce people, or I introduce myself with my full name. I got this tip from Pat Gilday, because I'm old school and I have people physically sign in. The first line of my sign-in sheet has name, address, phone number, email. And the reason is, if I leave it blank, chances are Paul's going to come in, he's going to write his name, maybe he'll give me a phone number and email. So I put in a phony line. Sometimes I'll do it 2 lines. Then, Becca walks in. Becca's not fallen for that because she's seen that before. So she'll give me her name and her email. When Becca leaves, I write in a phony phone number and a phony address. Here's the caveat for that. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, make sure you remember this. Because if you write down a phony phone number or a phony address, you need to make sure that you remember it's phony. So I underline it. Again, I got this from Pat. And one time I did this and I didn't underline it, and the next day I'm calling somebody I met, and I'm like, son of a gun, they gave me a phony number. Oh no, they didn't. I wrote that number. So yeah, I did. But there's a psychological, again, effect that by the 5th person who comes in and they see that the 4 visitors before them filled everything out, they're much more inclined to fill it out. The other thing is that as you're talking with them, and let's say they've already, and some people will come in, they'll say right away, where do you want me to sign? Okay, those people fill it out. So I'm talking with Paul, he came in with his family, he's touring, we're chatting, He's not working with anybody. You know, he's met a couple of realtors, but he hasn't signed with anybody. He's looking in this area, this price point, this. Great, you know, I'd love to send you some information. He says, great. I said, awesome. Hey, before you go, let me just make sure I can read your writing. And I said, oh, you know, Paul's the hero at Yahoo. Oh, you know what? Let me give you a different email. Because after they've chatted, maybe that wasn't a phony email, but maybe it's a spam email. If you ever ask me if I give you mailbox for Newman at Gmail, it's a legitimate email address, but I'll never say it. That's our junk mail. I have no idea what's there. I don't even remember the password to get into it. But if there's some rapport, you know what? That's my work number. Let me give you my cell phone. So try to build rapport. And I'll tell you guys, it's tough sometimes if you do have a hot listing, like the one you did for me, where you're so busy, and you have about 5 seconds per person
Yes.
to really connect.
I should have teamed up with somebody on that one. It was a Mother's Day open, so I thought it was not going to be crazy. That place got insanely packed. I had like 20 people in that place at once. They didn't know where to park. They were parking on the road, and that's not
Yeah.
exactly
Oy.
the safest
That's not a
road
good
to
road
park
now.
on. So that was pretty crazy. Can I say something else? Don't underestimate an open.
Yeah.
She said something like, you kind of see a place iffy. I did an open back in June for an agent, and I asked her information about the property, and I kind of looked it up myself and everything like that, and I saw the property had gone under contract twice and been backed out twice. So I'm already like, oh, like this is not gonna be too fun. It's been on the market for a while. It's had a price drop. Nothing. I went at it anyways. I did it, and when you walk in, like it smells like cat, just straight cat. Yeah, you get that in the entrance. So like I'm already like, oh, this is gonna be a dud. Surprisingly enough, a lot of people came in, and one particular person came in, and she was in love with the place. She was in love with the history of the place, and she was unrepresented. And I took note of it. As soon as I got home, this is very important, follow up. As soon as I got home, I sent her an email. She texted me like 5 minutes later, I want to go see the place again with my husband. Went and saw it that night, and decided that night to put an offer on the place and to sell her place. So we did that all in a week, and I got business on both sides, all because I just followed up right away. So I mean, always follow up. My first piece of business was on the Chad's Ford one as well, the one I did for Brooke. I was literally putting everything away and closing down, and a lady pulled up with her kids. She said, "Am I too late?" I said, No, come on in. Showed her the place, and very timid, quiet, but she gave me all her info, talked to me a little bit. Thought she was looking for a townhome. She wasn't. Ended up selling her a house in Avondale for $500,000. So, I mean, follow up, and put them in your database, put them in command. Kind of read them if they need something right away, or if they need something maybe down the road, and go by the 8x8.
Yep. There's so many different smart plans that will help you with whether it's an A, B, or C buyer or seller. But I cannot stress enough what Paul just said about follow-up. The difference between hosting it or sitting an open house and working an open house, it's huge. You just want to sit one, fine, you show up at 1 o'clock, you put a sign out a few minutes before 1, and you sit there and you play on your phone, and at 3 o'clock you go home. Why? You just wasted your afternoon. If you want to work it, then make the phone calls days before to everybody you know. Post it on social media. If it's not your listing, as Paul said, ask the listing agent, please, post this as early in the week as you possibly can. Take out your own ads, in addition to whatever the listing agent may do. Print out your letters. Print out whatever it is you want to give to people when you canvass the neighborhood. Depending on whether it's a townhouse, singles, large lots, small lots, you want to reach anywhere between 50 and 100 houses to door knock. If I'm doing a row house, it's 25 on each side and it's 50 across the street. I always try to knock between 50 and 100 doors a day or two before the open house. I always invite the neighbors. Sometimes in my letter, I mention a raffle, a drawing for a gift card. Sometimes I don't. Again, ask permission for putting the directionals out, put them out early, get the sign guy if you don't want to do it yourself, get the signs out when it's over, contact the listing agent, and anybody who is not represented, get out a handwritten thank you note within 24 hours. Absolutely vital. And again, get them into your database, start working them. It's a process, and it will bring you great reward. Sample.
Feeding off the cat smell, in my go bags for open houses, I have 2, sometimes 3. I have paper towels, I cleaned windows on sliding patio doors that it was so obvious and so gross. I cleaned that. I have kicked clothes under beds, occasionally in the closets on the floor. Always make sure the toilet seats are down. That's my pet.
And flush.
There's nothing, and flush if it's necessary. But be prepared. I've done dishes because they left dishes in the sink. And I'm like, I'd rather have them drying. That to me is a little nicer looking than having them. I had put stuff away and I have no idea where I put them, but I left the owner's note. By the way, I put away your stuff. It's in that closet because it's got to look nice.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's another reason you don't want to show up 5 minutes before the open's going to start. I tend to show up 30 minutes before, unless I'm told, no, the seller is going to be there and they're not going to leave until whatever time. But I do the same thing, turn all the lights on, raise the blinds, make sure everything's clean.
Open the windows if there was an air conditioning.
Exactly, check the temperature, especially, and if it's a vacant house, maybe they went away or whatever. I don't want to go do an open house if the house itself is 85 degrees. So get in there early and turn the air on. In the winter, turn the heat up. But a couple of safety issues that we would be remiss if we didn't mention. One, if it's not your listing, hopefully the listing agent has explained to the seller to put valuables away, lock them up, medications, firearms, etc. When you go to a house, if you see cash, jewelry, firearms laying around, you need to let the listing agent and or the seller know immediately, and you do need to move it, okay? You can't leave that stuff lying around. Your own personal safety. Make sure your phone is charged at all times. Make sure your phone's on your person. Now again, I don't want you looking at the phone, playing games or talking to people, but if it's in your hand or in your pocket, you need to be able to access it. Somebody needs to know where you are. Somebody should be checking in on you, either in the middle of the open or towards the latter part of the open. Many times somebody will say, if you're in the house by yourself, somebody may come in and say, hey, can you show me what this thing is in the basement? And I think, Marcia, I think you had the best line. I'm sorry, the sellers don't want me to leave, the front door open, so I can't come down right now.
Just go down in the basement
with a stranger.
With a stranger, or upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, even when we have a buyer consultation, or we go on a listing presentation, we've had at least some contact with the buyer or the seller. Here, a perfect stranger is coming in off the street to look at this house. So you have to be careful. Always make sure you know where the exits are. Make sure that you know how to get out of that house. 99% of the time you're going to be absolutely fine, but we live in a crazy world and you have to be careful. And this is for men as well as women. Okay? If you are going to show them something in a room, make sure they lead. You don't walk ahead of somebody into a bedroom or into an attic or a basement or any place a room you cannot escape from.
I always station myself between the client and the front door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there, I'm not here and they're here.
Right.
I'm always very aware of that, I'm always stationing myself close to an exit.
Yeah, and if it's a large house, it's always a good idea to have somebody with you.
Yeah.
Even a small house if you're feeling uncomfortable, but the larger the house, the more people you want. You don't want to do a 3,000 square foot home by yourself. Okay.
I had a time where I was hosting an open house and the house just came back on the market and the buyer that had struggled with the finance or whatever it was came to the open house. And I didn't know who this person was, so they're asking me questions and they're like, well, do you know why it's back on the market, what happened, or whatever the case is? And I'm like, well, it could be a number of reasons, it could be this, or that. And he's like, he's just asking me questions, it just started to get weird, and then he asked to talk to the listing agent. And then he just was like so emotional, he finally told me like, I'm the one that was buying this house. So he's on the phone with the listing agent, they're having a whole conversation. But she ended up texting her husband to tell him to come over just to check on me, and I thought that was so nice. And I was like, oh my God, because I didn't at first feel like threatened, but then I was like, wait, he could be like very upset that he lost his house. It was raining, it was only me and him in this house. So if he wanted to do whatever, he could have. But I was just like, wow, that made me open my eyes a little bit and just be like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do from now on as far as like,
I realized I don't want to do
That's
it
a
now.
strange story.
yeah, so I was just like, well, I have done some since then, but it was just, that was like the first time, and it kind of scared me because I was like, I literally was caught off guard by this. I really didn't know who this person was, and I'm like, and it could have went bad, but it was just having that communication with the listing agent and letting them know, like, okay, so that I'm just glad that it didn't go south.
Well, we're glad too. Let me be very clear about that.
I was like, oh my God.
Again, 99.9% of the time you're going to be fine. But trust your gut. Have people with you. If you don't have another agent that can come with you, ask a friend. Hey, listen, I know this might be a little convenient. I'll take you out to dinner afterwards. But can you just kind of hang out with me? There's nothing wrong with that.
And I would do that if it was another visitor and somebody else came in, I'd say, would you mind hanging around? But my thing is, I don't care about fashion. If I'm in an open house, I'm wearing stuff I can run and kick in.
That's the other thing. Like, I don't wear any nice jewelry. I don't.
I look
Like,
nice, but
yeah.
I'm not.
Don't have anything that somebody might want.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my car key in my pocket if I need to make a run for it.
And
Yeah.
the house keys are in my pocket too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not to scare anybody, but forewarned is forearmed. So just be smart.
I have a question. It isn't about the safety though. You said you use your iPad to capture and have them sign in. Are you doing like a QR and having them
No,
go to a
so
landing
I
page or
use a
something?
specific app called, I believe it's Open Home Pro, I think. But basically, you have all your listings in there. You start a new listing, you can post photos, and the photos will like pan through, and then it will say sign in. They hit sign in, and you'll have 5 questions. It's asking. Yeah, it's
Do you use
asking.
command?
What's the name of it again?
No.
Paul, say it again.
So I believe it's Open Home Pro. I'll get the official name. I don't. It's on my iPad. I meant to bring it. It's just you hit sign in, and it's 5 questions. They ask your name. They ask for a phone number. They ask for an email. They ask if you're working with an agent, and are you pre-approved. And I think you can edit the questions. I've tried to tinker with it, but yeah, you can edit the questions that you want to ask and make them for yourself. However you want to retain the information and anything like that. It's a great app. And then when you're done with the open house, it'll send you an email and it'll basically say hot leads, which is the ones that are not represented. And then the ones that are represented, that I usually send to the listing agent, just so, and I'll let them know, hey, this is another thing, when you're taking their information, if they say something that kind of, catches your thoughts or what, write notes. There's a little spot where you can put notes, like they're looking for, certain amount of rooms, or, they have a dog, or, they're going through a divorce, whatever. Write notes, write something in particular about that person so you can kind of remember them. That way, when you following up with that person, you kind of have an idea of who you're talking to.
I was asking because with COVID and all these other viruses and stuff going on, I would think that people would be more turned away from writing something, like to keep going behind another pen. So I was trying to think of something that they was touching.
It goes both ways for me. I have people that hate the iPad, and if they do, and if I see them struggling with it, I just grab it myself and
Same.
I'll put the name in, and can I get this information, and just get it from them.
You can also bring, a whole bunch of pens, put them in a public, I think you go to some of the doctor's offices, they'll have the clean, dirty pens, so do that. The other thing is, one thing I will say is that I think that in this climate, because of COVID, more people are inclined to give you correct contact information. I know when we first started doing open houses again, we had to make sure you were giving us correct information, just in case, we found out after the fact that somebody tested positive, and then we had to do contact tracing. So I'm guessing, I haven't done an open for a long time, but I'm guessing that most people are still inclined for that. Actually, with your hand up.
So I actually have two questions, and it's about what we just talked about. One, are we still doing the COVID pan sheet?
The COVID, actually, it was the HSA that we were doing at open houses, because that was the actual questionnaire. To my knowledge, we're not doing that, but unless, let me rephrase, let me qualify this. If the seller wants it,
Right.
it's always up to the seller. Okay, Dominic is watching this. It's always up to the seller. That same thing goes with masks and booties and whatever. That's always up to the seller. If the seller wants you to do a verbal screening, how you feeling today, just making sure you weren't exposed, blah, blah, blah. You can always, it's not a bad idea to have a stack of masks, the disposable masks, and say, especially if there are a lot of people in the house, you may get people that say, oh gee, I'm not comfortable going in right now because the numbers are climbing again, and you have 12 people in there. Well, if you'd like to go through, I do have disposable masks that you can have. It's just another nice thing to have. But to my knowledge, we do not have to have anything written as far as I don't have a cough, I don't have a fever, I haven't been
I
exposed.
think we're supposed to have a consumer notice though.
Well, I always have a consumer notice, always, 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 always.
The minute you start asking them questions, like how long have you been looking, or what's your price range, or anything like that, you should at least have a consumer notice, like taped on the dining room somewhere, so that you can say to the real estate commission, oh, I had it out, I mentioned it to them.
I always, I have a laminated copy of it.
Right.
And I always take that and have that near my sign-in. The only time I ever referenced it was if I had somebody that came through and all of a sudden started offering information that I thought crossed a line.
Right.
And I would say, I think you're giving me a little too much personal information right now. And then I would actually explain the consumer notice.
It's
But
more of a real estate commission moment for Dominic, where, you could prove that it was physically there.
right.
Just like over in the bullpen, if you've ever noticed, there's consumer notices taped on the inside walls of the phone booths over there in the Rising Star room. It's so if the real estate commission comes in to audit the office, you can show them that our cubbies all have the consumer notice taped on the inside of it. So they can't accuse us of not mentioning that document.
Second question, for those of us that aren't using an app like Paul mentioned, or even the landing pages in Command, is there a place that we can access a sign-in sheet that's already made from the company?
You probably could just Google, KW sign-ins. I just created my own.
I did too, but I didn't know if we had like a specific
I
one.
think
they're-
they're in the old
The
EH docs.
Yeah, but
probably.
honestly, they weren't very good. They
Right.
didn't give you all the
Right.
information. If you, here again, ask 6 different agents to give you samples of what they use, you'll probably end up creating a 7th. Because you're like, oh, I like this that Marcia had, I like this that Barb had, I like this that, Yashika had. I'm gonna put them all together. The ones that I like the best ask for name, address, email, phone number. Are you working with an agent? If so, who? And I used to have, what's your time frame? But then there were too many questions.
Mhm.
So, but if I can get a legitimate phone number or email, I'm okay, because I can do my research and my Sherlock Holmes investigation after that and find more info.
I have those 5 questions, and I have people that get annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, another one. So, yeah. If you keep it, you get what you need, and keep it minimal. I mean, once you talk to them on the phone later or whatever, however you follow up, you're gonna get, all the information you need, because that's when they're wanting to work. So.
I use an individual sign-in sheet for every client, so I print out like 10 or 15, and then I just, write a note, slide it under it. But I do have a sentence in the top of mine that just says, my seller
Yeah.
expects me to get this information since you're coming, make
Yeah.
something up, so
Yeah.
you're going through their home.
And that is a great
And
line
that's
to
how I
use.
say,
Yeah.
listen, I know this is probably a hassle for you to sign in, but you know what? My seller really would like to know what's going
Yeah.
through their home.
Yeah.
So please take 2 seconds and just fill that in for me, I'd really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And whether you ask when they first walk in or after they tour the house, I've tried it both ways. And, sometimes you'll tell somebody, walk through the house, sign in before you leave, because my seller expects this, and they end up touring the backyard and then they just leave. Oh well, I can't lose sleep over it. The other thing is, keep in mind this is a numbers game. You are going to do open houses, as Paul experienced this, I certainly experienced this. Opens that I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna be so busy, this is going to just be rocking, and I got one person, and of course they were represented. Others I thought, gee, I wonder if I'll have anybody. I got 10, 12 people. Others, oh my God, everybody's represented, why am I giving up this day? And then others where 6 of them were. And out of the 6, guess what, I couldn't close anybody. But then the next one I did, there were 4 unrepresented, and I closed them all. It is a numbers game. You cannot get discouraged. If anybody was for those who were in Sue Murphy's class a few weeks ago, when she was talking about persistence and building the pipeline and really going, she would do 4 open houses per weekend. She'd do 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. 11 to 1, 2 to 4, whatever the time frame was. If this is an avenue that you want to utilize, you can't just do one a month and expect this to work. You have to do them, if not every weekend, I would say 3 weekends out of 4, because everybody deserves a weekend off. And on the weekends you're working, do them on Saturday and Sunday. I loved what Paul said, because it's something that I say to you guys all the time. Show up, come to the office, get to know the Pat Gilday, the Carezzi team, the May Lynch team, Jim McGill. These are the people that are doing a lot of the listings. They can't sit them all, even if they wanted to. They get 4 listings in a week. Even if they want to sit them, they can only sit 1. That leaves 3 open houses available. Okay? Get to know them. They're not going to ask you if they don't know you. And thank you for coming to the class. I still want people to shadow 1 or 2 open houses before you do your own, to get a feel for it. And then go get some business.
One parting note, which
Yes.
I forgot when you mentioned Jim. There are times you're going to arrive for the open house, you're going to get everything set up, you're going down in the basement to turn the lights on and find out it's flooded. Not that this ever happened to me. You call the agent, you cancel the open house because he can't get over, and it was the sump pump. And I don't know enough about sump pumps to do anything. I would have literally waded through the water, but it wouldn't have done me any good. Always keep in your bag, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, this open house has been canceled because of an issue. And then do the little tear off things with your name and phone number, please call me for a private tour. But you've gotta be able, and I mean, some scribbly handwritten thing taped to the door, oh, keep tape in your bag too, and a stapler. But make sure you have something presentable, because it will happen, something is gonna happen. So have something that just politely says, I'm so sorry, you know, what, the open house had to be canceled. Because you don't know who's coming, so you can't call them and say, don't bother coming. You've done all your ads, you've done all your door knocking, and ta-da, no open house.
Speaking of ads, Facebook, if you got 20, 30 bucks to burn, I know we're all starting off, you know, we don't have a lot, but, you know, if you feel like your business is, you know, getting a little busy or not, and you want to invest on some marketing, Facebook ads, once you throw your open house ad on there for your sphere, you can do Facebook ad and promote, boost the post. That way people in the area that you choose, they see it. A lot of times I get likes, shares, or messages of people that are looking for homes kind of like that. Those are another way. I mean, the odds, I think it's 10,000 to 1. It's really low odds, but nonetheless, you're putting your name out there. And you know, people, you know, later down the road, I remember that guy's, you know, Facebook ad or whatever. They'll reach out to you. And then another thing, Jim, he wanted me to share, if you want more content about open houses, he used to get coaching with Tom Ferry. He would pay $1,000 a month. And he said that the #1 tool he was using was his video. It's called Mega Open House with Tom Ferry. He said he would use this video a lot in the coaching, and it has a lot of great content about open houses.
Awesome. Any final questions? We're running a few minutes over.
I just was gonna say one more quick thing about directionals. If you're sitting someone's open, chances are you're gonna have to get their directionals, because I'm sure you guys don't have like a stack of directionals in your garage, you know. You're just starting out, you haven't even bought them, so make sure if you're sitting someone's open that you ask them, do they have any directionals, and do you wanna put them up, or do they wanna put them up? And somebody's